Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about The Amazing Book is Not on Fire and The Amazing Tour is Not on Fire. For the record, for the rest of this video, I'm going to be using the kind of shortened names of these books, which is Tabinof and Tatinof. And yes, I'm aware that Tatinof is not actually a book. So I read Tabinof back in September, I think, and rated it 5 amazing stars that were not on fire out of 5. I just didn't review it. I didn't even review it on Goodreads beyond giving it that star rating. And it's not because I didn't like it. Obviously, give it my star rating. I just didn't really have anything to say, as opposed to now. Obviously. Moving on, for those of you who might not know, Tabinof and its corresponding stage show, Tatinof, are the brainchildren of sorts of YouTubers Dan Howell and Phil Lester, probably better known here by their handles Dan Is Not On Fire and Amazing Phil, respectively. If you already knew who they were, you didn't need that explanation, and if you didn't know who they were before I just told you, I really recommend going to watch their videos because they are just pure delight. I also recommend going to watch their gaming channel they have together, Dan and Phil Games, if you ever just want to laugh hysterically for, X number of minutes. And recently, I've been watching a lot of their videos. Like, really a lot of them. And as you can probably guess, I've also been re-listening to Tabinof. It's not particularly long in audiobook standards. I think it's just over 4 hours, which for an audiobook is really, really short. So this makes it an easy re-listen, and then another re-listen, and then another re-listen. Okay, yeah, I know, okay, I have a problem. The other week I'd realized I'd spent almost the entirety of a week just listening to this audiobook on repeat and watching the creative efforts of Dan and Phil almost exclusively, and I kinda had to pause and briefly examine my life. Which means I had to consider why I'd fallen down the Dan and Phil hole. I mean, sure, I have kind of an addictive personality, which means if I like something, I kind of tend to dive headfirst into the deep end of it and try to consume everything I can related to that thing, but that's not the point here. The point was that I hadn't smiled in something over a week. I won't beleaguer you all with the entire story, but needless to say, some stuff had happened in my personal life that was causing me a lot of extra stress. And this isn't like normal stress. See, I guess I essentially operate in a constant state of stress. I used to joke that I made all of my best stuff while under stress. So for me, saying I'm stressed is basically like saying I'm having a normal Monday. But we're not talking about that kind of stress. What I'm talking about is the kind of stress that aggravates my combination anxiety and depression. Basically what happens is I think about this stressor and my anxiety kicks in, which ramps my body into panicked fight or flight mode, which means my heart is racing, I want to scream/cry, and I can't do that because I'm probably at work, and it really doesn't do well to suddenly burst into ugly sobs while at work. And my body stays that physically tense and worked up until eventually... Actually, all that happens is my body lets go of all that tension, and instead of feeling relaxed, I am plunged into a deep, dark pit of depression, and I am useless to the world. When I'm this stressed, this is happening in 20-25 minute cycles, and it's completely unrelenting. Now, I'm not saying this as a way to fish for sympathy or anything like that, because this is just how my brain functions, and when something happens that is essentially beyond my control. As you can guess, this means I was essentially miserable during that week where I realized I hadn't smiled and was really overall just depressed. I couldn't even work out at the gym or do anything creative, which are the two things that are essentially my happy place mode. These are things I do to de-stress, and I couldn't even muster the energy to go and do those two things. But then for some reason, I decided to download a free 1-month trial of YouTube Red, solely for the purpose of checking out Tatinof. I'd been interested in it for a while, but when I realized I would have to get YouTube Red for it, I just, for some reason, put it off and didn't do it. But that day, I bit the bullet and I did, because I wanted to see it. And you know what? For a solid 96-ish minutes, I smiled and laughed. And I mean the deep laughter where I think I pulled an imaginary ab muscle of some kind. You're in there somewhere, I know it. The feeling I got from that special was so positive that it literally felt like a weight lifted off of my shoulders. And sure, while there were things I couldn't necessarily control and I was still fighting this anxious panic basically every waking moment. I realized that it's hard to deny the power of being able to laugh and just enjoy the creative efforts of two people whose content just brings you joy. Obviously, this is a pretty simple lesson to sort of realize, and I am aware of the power of laughter and being able to smile. But I never really figured it would just be these two YouTubers who, honestly, I can't even remember how I found them. I know I've followed them both for a couple years now, but I can't remember what video or videos it was that started it all. And in rediscovering that, I've essentially rediscovered two very creative people who've taken instances through their vlogging that can seem wholly mundane and almost like generic everyday instances, and through the power of their creativity and their personalities, make them into massively popular multi-platform entertainment. They've got 2 best-selling books, they have a best-selling stage show, they've done a radio show, and they're here on the internet. Their fandom is absolutely huge. I love the fact that they spell it Phandom, playing upon Phil and Dan. Though for me, I look at that and go, that used to refer to the fandom of the opera fandom. Do we like share custody of that name now? I realize now that I had actually kind of meant to properly review Tabinof and Tatinof, and the only thing I can think to say about either of them is that if you're just looking to remind yourself that the world can sometimes be a silly place, and that sometimes you really just need to laugh and smile, then you need these two just delightful people in your life. And you don't necessarily need to know who they are to enjoy either their books or their show. The power of something as simple as just being able to smile in the midst of complete panic, really, is really amazing. And the fact that these two guys, who sincerely seem to love their audience and clearly enjoy what they do and are wildly creative and entertaining, it just makes me realize how sometimes the world can be a really cool and fun place. And it's inspiring. But that's it for me today, you guys, so until next time, cheers.